Okay, hi everybody. This morning, my name's Mark Schaub and I'm joined by my colleague David Hong. So we'll be talking a little bit about ICOs and crowdfunding in China and Asia. So we called it Crowdfunding 2.0. I'm a lawyer working for Kingwood Mallesons. I've been living in China since 1993, so 25 years. And so we've started recently a boutique advisory business called He, and we've also, out of that business, we've brought out this He blockchain, and He blockchain is working on a range of different ICOs. In some cases, we're actually funding the ICOs. In some cases, we're just acting as the deeper bench to help American or European companies raise funds in Asia. So today we'll be talking a little bit about ICOs generally. So state of the market, basically ICOs, 2 or 3 years ago, unknown quantity. Last year, already collected $4 billion US, so quite a large sum. This year, only talking about March this year, has already raised $7 billion US. So ICOs are very real money's coming in, and it's a very exciting place to be. Now, one of the reasons it's also exciting is that we're seeing very large listings now. So $250 million, not unheard of. Most cases that we see are somewhere between 50 and 30 million US dollars. So the other issue with the state of the market is there are a lot of problems with the market. So 70% of the ICOs that we see, absolute scams. Probably half of those are dishonest, the other half are just people that have no idea what they're doing, but they're raising funds. Even companies that are listed companies like Long Island Iced Tea, which you've probably heard about, they made cocktails. They thought, let's put blockchain in the name. They put blockchain in the name. The share price jumped up astronomically high, but within a few months, the company's delisted. It was a good idea, it was fun to do, but not if you're a listed company. Now, another company that perhaps people in the audience don't know anymore, when I was young, it was a very famous company, Kodak, because of film. They had to reinvent themselves, so they thought a blockchain application for photographs and for professional photographers made a lot of sense. Their share price also went up, but they were not a scam, they were just poor implementation. So I think the issue is there are a lot of projects out there, there's a lot of funds to be raised, but you need to have the right idea, the right team, and you need to be able to implement properly. Now, the blockchain and the ICO, what are the differences? Why, if we talk about traditional venture capital, if we talk about other ways of raising funds, why are ICOs popular? Now, I think the main reason why they're popular is for the people who are behind the ICO, you don't need to give away equity. So people are doing private sales or public raising of tokens, so they will still hold the equity. So that, I think, is the crucial #1 reason why people are very enthusiastic about doing ICOs. The second issue is it is quick. So I think we are now doing most of our ICO projects, if it's got an Asian fundraising element to it, we can normally do it within 4 to 6 months. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer if it's complicated, but it is quick. It is a bit unregulated, and that is a problem, I think, for the industry. So we take a very strong stance. We do not work with ICOs unless we are convinced that they have the team, they have the concept, and they have an implementation plan. So I think what we're seeing at the moment is lots of money rushing in, a lot of people making very large returns. It will not be sustainable. There will be a more regulated ICO coming at some stage, but this will be good for legitimate projects. But at the moment, it is a way to go quickly to the market and raise funds quickly for what's a very interesting technology. So I think you can really go away from this thinking ICOs are not going away and blockchain technology is not going away. So just to give you a bit of an example compared to crowdfunding, so the last slide we're mostly talking about venture capital or private equity compared to ICOs. So what are the differences between crowdfunding and ICOs? Well, I think the first thing is the accessibility. Mostly if you're doing a crowdfunding, it's really targeted to a very limited geographic group or even like a small community. People that find it funny to crowdfund somebody making potato salad, find it funny to have a scuba mask underwater, or somebody wants to crowdfund the last episode of a TV show that they saw when they were growing up as kids. So it's a community, which is a bit similar to the ICO, but it's a very, very small community, and the community doesn't really have any economic sense to it. Now, the ICOs are very different. They are very much global in scope, so many of our projects will raise funds in Asia, but they'll also raise funds elsewhere. They will overwhelmingly come to Asia because that seems to be where the biggest appetite is to deploy funds. Second thing is with crowdfunding, we're talking about a wide range of things. It's normally an imagination, normally something that will go viral and people say, hey, that's funny, I'd like to invest in that, I'll get a t-shirt or something like that. So it's not really an economic concept, whereas ICO is very different. The ICO must have a blockchain. So we do have people, they come to us with white papers, and we say, look, it's a nice white paper, it's a very nice team, but there is no blockchain element. No blockchain element, no ICO. It's very important to note. So the vision, normally in a crowdfund, they have some idea, some concept, there might be a prototype. In a ICO, the most important piece of documentation is the white paper, which is basically explaining what is the issue, what is going to be disrupted, and how you're going to get there to disrupt it. Increasingly, the white paper is becoming perhaps shorter now, at least in Asia, and we will have a separate technical paper to deal with the technology. So I think for most people who are investing in ICOs now, also in Asia, it's the team that's important, it's the concept's important, but other people will look at the technical aspects. So that might be outside of the white paper. Now, legitimacy, crowdfunding, well, there are some regulations, but since most crowdfundings are small amounts of money, lots of people doing it for what is perhaps a slightly hilarious outcome, it's not normally a big issue. People kind of realize that if they've crowdfunded $50 for some guy to make potato salad, it's unlikely the regulator's going to get involved. Now, ICOs are very different. At the moment, it is in some places regulated in the fact that it says no ICOs. So there are a number of countries, including China, where ICOs are banned. But then there are other jurisdictions which are much more crypto-friendly, and they allow quite a lot to happen. I think at the moment we're still in a phase where regulations are very light if you pick the right jurisdiction for that, but I think we're moving to a much more regulated ICO future, which we would embrace. The problem which we see at the moment is the lack of regulation. And this lack of regulation allows people to scam the unsuspecting investors. So we are hoping for a future where ICOs are more rigorous because we believe it's a flexible way to raise funds for a technology that's very exciting. The platforms, we're not bound by any specific platforms on ICOs, whereas traditionally crowdfunding's on Kickstarter or GoFundMe type platforms. Okay. Now, who we are, just a little bit about ourselves. So our business is actually sprung out of King & Wood Mallesons. King & Wood Mallesons is an Asian Pacific law firm. I'm a partner of the China practice. So King & Wood Mallesons in China was set up back in 1994, and we grew from 4 people in a hotel room to today we've got about 3,000 people working across 11 different offices. So we're a large law firm by now. We're very strong in the Asian region, so we have large presence also in Australia, also in Hong Kong. We have offices in Singapore, Japan. So a lot of these areas are at the cutting edge of crypto and ICOs and blockchain generally. So we have a good geographical footprint. We also have offices in North America and in Europe and the Middle East. So we're a global law firm. I think if we look at King & Wood Mallesons in China, I'd say as an international law firm, we're very Chinese, but as a Chinese law firm, we're very international. So a little bit about He, which is a much less well-known entity than King & Wood. So He started as a small advisory firm coming out of the King & Wood Mallesons China practice, because what we saw was many international companies coming into China face problems, and they lack somebody who can perhaps strategically advise them on issues, or also perhaps have a network to see if they can help get problems solved. So that was one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is Chinese companies are increasingly looking abroad, and they also need strategic input. So the idea was King & Wood had this platform within China where we do have this reservoir of contacts and network, but we also have a lot of strategic insights. So that was why we gave birth to HEI, which is the idea was to help the foreigners come into China or deal in China and help the Chinese go abroad. Now, shortly afterwards, about a year ago, we started up HEI blockchain because we realized that blockchain was changing China. Now, people think, blockchain is banned in China. Couldn't be further from the truth. There are a lot of restrictions. ICOs are banned, and there are restrictions on cryptocurrency. But blockchain, there are a few countries in the world investing as heavily as China is in blockchain. So there's many billion-dollar funds just targeting blockchain. So what we're doing there is, we saw there was a niche for a group of people to advise on blockchain technology. So we have a group of technical guys who are able to provide fundamental analysis on ICOs. So we've done a number of academic papers on ICOs before they went public. We also review the ICO concept. As I mentioned, many ICO concepts that we see have no blockchain element, or the tokenization's all wrong, or the tokenization just doesn't work economically. So we do work on the high-level concepts, but we also draft the white papers, or we may review your white paper and we may amend it either just to make it more blockchain friendly or perhaps more market friendly. Because Asian investors, they also have a concept as to what they like to see in a white paper. In addition, and something which we've just been doing perhaps in the last few months, is that we've really seen there's a large niche. There's many American ICOs who are looking to engage with Asia, but it's difficult. Often there's a 12-hour time difference or a 15-hour time difference, so it's difficult even to get on a call, much less get on a plane and fly over to Singapore or to Hong Kong. So we've got our relationships in those markets, and what we can do is act for these companies as their extended bench to work on the ICOs. So we can help find the right vendors. We are able to help with the implementation of the ICO. We're also able to help support roadshows. These are typically done in Hong Kong or Singapore. And so we become really a partner in the ICO to help it successfully get launched in Asia. So I'll just hand over to my colleague David Hong, who'll talk a little bit more about the actual practical implementation.
Hi, so I'm David Hong, as Mark introduced me. I'm also a member of Kingwood Mallesons and the HEI blockchain team. Given that's consensus this week, I'm sure you guys have all heard about ICOs. So we thought we would give a different twist and do ICOs in Asia because Asia and the rest of the world is quite different. I'm a little mindful of our time, so I'm going to kind of run through my slides, give you the key points. Our PPT will be available for download. So the most important thing in Asia is discounts, bonuses, and bounties. Bounties less so, it's all about the discounts and bonuses. The Asian investors, the number one question they ask is, what is the pre-sale price that I can get it for, and what is the price that I can sell it on the opening day of the ICO? Now, given this concern, we generally recommend our clients to have a 6-month lockup period for the tokens, which we've seen in the market is generally acceptable. Anything beyond 6 months, the investors get a little anxious. In the US, bounties are very popular. Again, in China, not so much, because in China, they generally will on-sell for a higher price, which is less than the opening day ICO, and that's how they make their money. But what concern that we always see with the ICOs is if there's too much of a discount, if it takes too long to raise the money, it just doesn't seem credible. And the biggest concern with ICOs now is credibility. The team members, the second most important thing in Asia is the team members. The critical distinction between team members in Asia and the US is, in the US, they want to find team members with blockchain credibility. In Asia, they just want people who have worked for big names. So you have a guy from Goldman Sachs as your finance guy, you have a Kingwood Mallesons lawyer as your legal guy, and you have a guy who worked at Microsoft or Google. Those are very big names in Asia and really help do the fundraise. In the US, less so, because they want people with blockchain credibility. Okay, this I think is the hottest issue right now, considering the regulatory climate in the US. So because of the regulatory uncertainty from the SEC, most of the projects we're seeing out of the US now are security tokens. Now, the biggest issue with security tokens is the lack of liquidity. There's currently no exchanges that can list security tokens because existing crypto exchanges only list utility tokens, so they're not governed by securities laws. If they were to list a security token, they would have to be licensed and follow securities regulations. That's what happened with the DAO, which is why all exchanges didn't list the DAO. Now, the biggest issue for Asia is, as we explained, Asian investors are looking to make money on flipping their coin. So they want a liquid secondary market in order for them to sell their tokens. For a security token, that market doesn't yet exist. So that's kind of the issue that we're facing with fundraising right now. My understanding is T0 and some other ones, I think, are going to have security tokens soon. Polymath is another one. So once that securities exchange is up, I think there will be a lot more appetite for security tokens in Asia. But right now, it's very difficult. Okay, so separately, again, it's all about big names in Asia, but even in the West. So cornerstone investors are very important. Having a big name like Pantera, or for Asia, if you have Fembushi, that will really help you with the fundraise. I think the key distinction between Asia and the West here is the announcement of strategics. So in Asia, you want to announce your strategic partners during your ICO because that will really give you that marketing momentum to reach your fundraising cap. In the US, generally speaking, the strategics are announced after the project is already, the ICO is completed and the project is in the implementation phase because it continues to bring awareness to the project. Again, it's not so important. The strategics being announced at the fundraising is more common in Asia. Okay, so community management, huge in ICOs. Only problem is most of the different social media channels in China are blocked. Granted, most of them are available outside of China, but China is a huge market. Even though ICOs are banned here, you'll get a lot of money coming from Chinese people with money offshore. So you really have to consider who your community manager will be if you're looking for an Asia raise, because if you use any of these social media channels, none of them work. Okay, and then the technical aspect, I think very important in the States. And particularly in 2017, this was probably the most important issue. What did your white paper look at? What does your code look like? And how much code do you have in your GitHub repository? In Asia, it doesn't really matter. Because most Asian investors will never go to GitHub. They don't know what GitHub is. The white paper, again, most of them don't read the white paper in its entirety. And so, that's why we've actually seen the trend of doing a commercial retail white paper and a technical white paper. Generally speaking, the technical white paper is there just to demonstrate that you do have technical credibility, and the retail white paper is what most people will use. So this actually, what we think is probably the most difficult aspect for ICO projects, because finding blockchain programmers and developers is very difficult right now. It's less important in Asia. So I want to do a case study of a project that we're working right now. It's called Haven Network. It's a peer-to-peer insurance platform. Now, what we see the trend is building platforms or ecosystems, because what these allow is involvement from many other stakeholders. So Haven, it's not just our team or a peer-to-peer insurance trading platform. It's going to be an entire ecosystem where different stakeholders are involved as well that can provide thought leadership. And so by expanding our ecosystem to this platform of different stakeholders, it increases adoption opportunities, and adoption is what is key to the success of any blockchain project. I think the easiest way to describe it, though, I didn't know what a credit default swap was until I researched it, was it's a credit default swap for crypto exchanges. Now, the reason why we decided to do this is because, one, when you see right now in the blockchain space, the companies making the most money there are the exchanges. I think, Binance was founded at the middle of last year, and they made over $1 billion last year. So, what we're seeing is an opportunity to take an existing product, which is a fixed financial product, which is a credit default swap, and we will actually probably implement other insurance products as well as derivatives on our platform, and then just allowing it to be crypto available. Secondly, there's a strong market need, and we have a very strong team. So our team is primarily composed, the founders are high volume quant arbitrage traders. So right now, they are trading, because the market is so immature that there's so much arbitrage opportunity across all the different exchanges. So by using an arbitrage strategy where they just buy on one exchange that is cheaper and then sell on another exchange that is more expensive, they have almost zero risk. So they're able to return 1 to 2% a day on their entire investment. But the problem is there's no way to protect that investment. There's the tail risk of a hack, a bankruptcy, exchange just shutting down, and then they would lose all their money. So due to that tail risk, they can't really leverage up. So they're trading about 10 million a day, but if they could protect against that tail risk, they would easily leverage up to 100, 150 million. Now, if you're making 500% annualized return, I think they are happy to pay 35, 40% premium on their insurance, which is what we expect to be the premium. So, not only does this solve a market need, but it also lets investors sitting on large crypto holdings to earn premium on those crypto holdings that there really is an opportunity elsewhere. Again, insurance was a perfect industry because it is so draconic and hasn't really been touched by tech yet. Now, the highlights of this project that I think what led to it being so successful, again, we're in stealth mode. You'll probably hear about us in a couple of months, so then you could say to your friends, I know that project. But it's very quick. We're probably going to complete it in about 6 months. Secondly, again, we want to differentiate ourselves from all the other ICOs out there, the majority of which are scams. So we're going all private placement. There's going to be no public sale, and we'll probably conduct an airdrop just to expand the community. Secondly, again, strategic partnerships. So we were able to secure some strategic partnerships with AXA and Hublot. And again, these big names really help our project in the Asian market. So that is our presentation. Will be available for Q&A.
How many minutes?
21 minutes.